Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 459. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Mark Augustiniak.
What's up?
Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Season 10, episode 24. This one's all about the Pikmin, buddy. We're going to be talking about and ranking Pikmin 3 throughout this episode, which I'm super looking forward to for many a reason. Especially because this is a Wii U game that I got Matt to play. Before we jump into that, I want to know, Matt, Mark, what is the weirdest thing that you've found in your garden? If you've not found something weird in your garden, you know, maybe a garden, maybe the woods. I'll even go as far as to say the street.
Weirdest thing.
What weird things await you out in the world when you go looking for them?
Well, I mean, thank you for implying that I go outside.
Hey man, I'm thinking in totality here, you know? This could be dating all the way back to being a child in the woods.
I don't know. I for some reason I think about when there were some like toy army men in a garden, but they might have been planted by my brother, because we used to have like big scale battles, and then like I guess he just had some left over in there and forgot about them.
Yeah, that makes sense. That would be, I think that could be something unearthed one day by small ant-like creatures, and they'd carry it to build a bridge.
We even had
somewhere.
like a pile that we would take of them, and like we melted them, so it's just like a pile of corpses, and we put red paint on it and stuff.
That's pretty good. That's a Castlevania boss from Symphony of the Night, I think. Matt, what you find when you're out there digging?
I don't dig. I don't go in the woods. I can't. Nothing's coming to mind. Not like no blank. Drawing big old blank.
You've never just been outside and been like, "Whoa, what is this thing?"
No.
Or like, "Why am I finding this here?" Like, why is there a pair of underwear?
I'm sure I had. Nothing's coming to mind. The only thing I think of is the one time, it wasn't even a garden, it was on the sidewalk, it was a spider, but it did not seem to be something from this area. Like, it was like a little fuzzy, had some colors on it, and that was like a concern. So we didn't know what, we had to look to make sure the colors were okay, in case it was a death spider. That's the only thing I think of. It's not even a garden, though.
Death spiders.
Huh?
I thought, according to Matt, all spiders are death spiders.
Well, more deadly, or more deathly.
I get you. Okay.
It's different tiers.
When we moved in here, we redid the garden because it was all a lot of rose bushes, which are just thorns, and it was rose bushes all over the place, which just, and when we were digging up some stuff, I guess tulips, when they, like the bulb of a tulip, it looks small, like a little piece of garlic or onion or something. But I remember, like, we just kept digging until we found all of those, and we just had this little collection of small little onion-looking things. They looked kind of like the things that Pikmin come out of. But I remember being dubbed the Onion Goblin because of finding these small little things, and I was very excited every time I found one. Wouldn't necessarily call it strange, because I think you would find that in a garden, but, it was a surprise that there were so many weird little things in the garden. Pikmin 3. A fantastic video game. First released in America on August 4th, 2013, but globally it was released July 13th, 2013. For the Nintendo Wii U, published by Nintendo, developed by Nintendo Entertainment Analysis Division, or Nintendo EAD, as the kids call them. Back of the box, we got a big old pull quote that says, explore an alien world with the help of your Pikmin army. And then your description here is, take command of 3 tiny explorers and a legion of tenacious Pikmin in a fight for survival. Your loyal swarm of Pikmin will battle enemies, build pathways, and collect food to save your depleted home planet. Side note, basic reading ability is needed to fully enjoy this game. So jot that down. Some key highlights here. You could switch between 3 leaders and use your Wii U gamepad controller as your map.
Most used feature.
Well, maybe not this time around, but honestly, so I bought this game with my Wii U, right? I think, probably. Yeah. I remember I got the Wii U in February of 2014. So it was a little more than a year old at that point. We'd seen some releases. Remember, the Wii U released with not a lot of software, and a lot of the software that did release, it was you got some third-party support for the first time in a while, but it was stuff that we'd already played, right? It launched with Wii U. It launched with Arkham City, but Arkham City was a year old at that point, and
didn't it have like Assassin's Creed 2 or Brotherhood on it as well at launch?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. I think there was Mass Effect 3, but not 2 or 1.
Right. I forgot
some stuff like that, which, again, a big deal that EA was supporting the console, just a little strange in its execution. But by the time Pikmin 3 had come out, I think there was I thought, a decent enough library to jump into with the Wii U. When I got mine, it was a couple weeks away from the release of Tropical Freeze. So like stuff like that, and I think Smash had been announced and we knew it was coming in 2014 at that point. So it was a good time to buy a Wii U. And I remember being snowed in. We got this big snowstorm in Maryland, and I remember being in our apartment and just hanging out all weekend, not doing anything but playing Pikmin 3. And yeah, playing on the Wii U, I did utilize the map feature because you could just look down at the gamepad. It was like, I know where the Wii U is, right? And I know how it's looked at, but that was the coolest thing. Like, and it was it was like having a giant DS in your living room where you could just kind of glance down and you could do that. Especially in this game, and we'll get into the details, but like you can control 3 different captains, and it was so easy to use the stylus or your finger or whatever and just kind of tell the captain to go there rather than hit select, go to the map screen, make sure you've selected the right captain. Like, there were a lot of those things that the gamepad made a lot easier. And over time, they would release updates and patches for the game that added new control styles and some alternative options for the gamepad. So, like, one, you did have the off-TV play, which, again, for a snowstorm was great because back then my sleep schedule was who knows what. So there were times where I would just be up and all throughout the night and have the entire TV and gamepad to myself. There were other times where, through a snowstorm, we wanted to watch stuff on the TV, and I could still continue to play off TV on the gamepad. They'd later add stylus controls, so you can straight up just play basically the entire game with stylus, which is a different approach to playing. I think I replayed half of the game that way. It was pretty fun. But to me, Pikmin 3 was the Wii U. Like, I think Super Mario Maker eventually maybe usurped the crown in that regard because it very much like that defined the Wii U. I think Super Mario Maker, but Pikmin 3, I think at the time was the definitive Wii U experience. We also, so now I guess it'd be remiss if we didn't mention, there's also Pikmin 3 Deluxe in Nintendo's effort to bring all of the great games from Wii U over to the Nintendo Switch. It got a deluxe version, which added a new difficulty mode, and I think it streamlined some things a little bit compared to the original one in terms, like, there's now the lock-on feature that wasn't in the original version on Wii U, on Wii U.
Even the difficulty.
Say it again.
The difficulty, like normal on Wii U was actually hard on Switch.
Right.
So now it's like a little more easier for people to get into it on that. So on Switch is normal.
Okay, that explains a lot. Okay.
Yeah. So, because I'd played through this time around on Switch on normal, and it felt easier than I remember the Wii, especially the final boss. It felt easier this time around than the original. But I guess, yeah. I mean, if someone has never played Pikmin, if you're not completely unfamiliar with the series, you just maybe know it from Smash Brothers, or you have no idea what it is at all. The basic premise of all of these games is that you are stranded on a planet. There are these strange little ant-like creatures called Pikmin, and as the astronaut lost on a planet, you can take control of the Pikmin in squads of up to 100. You can combine different, types of Pikmin to fill up that squad of 100. And the whole goal typically is to get off of the planet. There's a survival element, especially in this one. And yeah, I mean, the first Pikmin game you play as Captain Olimar trying to rebuild his crashed and broken ship. In this game, you play between Alf, Brittany, and Charlie, and you are trying to find a food source to take back home, but there's also other complications preventing you from leaving the planet of PNF 404, which I thought was a nice little 404 error. Pretty good there, Nintendo. I guess that's the basic concept, right? Anything else I'm missing?
Yeah, like real-time strategy. That's the name of the game. Kind of command and arm.
Yeah, it's kind of a unique real-time strategy as well, right? Because you think about the original one when it launched on GameCube, that would have been, the only real-time strategy games we would have had would have been point and click on a computer. And the idea of doing one of these on a controller is strange. And I think the first time I played one that felt really good was Halo Wars. But that's pure RTS. Like, you are, building bases, etc. This is a little bit different, where you're actually controlling a protagonist. I guess Command and Conquer on consoles existed as well. Those were decent. I don't want to shortchange that, but I feel like Halo Wars really modernized that control scheme. But yeah, you're controlling a main character and then moving that squad and sending them to do different tasks: attack enemies, carry things, rescue parts of your ship, etc.
It had like a weird, almost Metroid-like vibe to it, with the way progression was working, where like certain areas putting the access right away, get more Pikmin.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think especially in this one, not especially, they all do it, but Pikmin 3, you have your three main Pikmin types: the red, yellow, and blue, which each have their own strengths and weaknesses. The red are pretty good fighters, and they're also immune to fire. The yellow are able to withstand electricity, but also help to act as a bridge for electricity. So you combine a bunch of them in between two wires, and they can bridge the connection. And blue can survive in water. Also yellow jump high. There's like a couple of like these sub traits, but there are these main traits. The other thing with this is you add rock Pikmin are new to Pikmin 3, and flying Pikmin are new. And the rock Pikmin especially, there's different areas where there's glass, and you have to break the glass. And that could be a gate. It could be a like crystal that's holding a bunch of pieces of a bridge, right? And maybe sometimes where you are, the thing I liked about this is there's stages you go to, and the first time you go to them, maybe story-wise, only one of the characters is available, but you can see there's a spot where if you had another character, you could throw that character there and a bunch of Pikmin and, travel down some other path. Yeah, I found this game stressfully relaxing. I feel like that's the best description I could have for this, where as everything is happening, it is chaos, and it's such a difficult art to balance, especially by the end, balancing the characters and the Pikmin types and where you're sending them and how you optimize your day and getting fruit back and all that. And I guess, again, to echo the point earlier that this was easier this time around than the first time, I beat the game with like 54 juice pods still ready to go. Like, where I feel like the first time I ran out of juice once. Like, I hit the end of a day, drank my last juice, and I couldn't progress further. I had to do like a fruit day where I just went back and cleaned up and just collected as many fruit as I could because I was, out. But this time, yeah, like I had so many juices that I kept thinking I was not as far along as I was, and I was right at the final oak tree. Like, I was about to start that stage, and I had like over 50 juices. By the time I finished it, yeah, it was nuts. But yeah, I feel like after the stress, after you get done, you realize like you see the fruit, you see what you did in a day and what you're able to achieve, and you just kind of like there's this like wave of calm that washes over you. I felt.
Yeah, it feels like an odd balance with how they were trying to implement the time in this game. Like, it was a bit of an obstacle for me for a couple of reasons. I don't typically play strategy-ish type of games. And time as an element in games usually doesn't bode well with me. But I appreciate how this one handles it. I don't think it's that bad. It's a little jarring at first to get into something like this for me, but as time went on, you start to understand it, and it's actually not that bad. It's like, first Pikmin, you just had 30 days or something like that. Like, and then that was it. Whatever, like, if you didn't complete everything, you die.
Yep.
Second game took that out entirely. I've never played it, but that sounds like that would be the one for me. You're free to explore, no worries. And then this one is kind of like it goes as far as you're able to make it go. So it's up to you to extend that time, which I can kind of appreciate that.
Yeah, you still have the daily time limit. What is the actual, because it's a sun clock that runs across the top, but what is it, like 20 minutes maybe?
I think so. That sounds right.
I do not know that number.
Yeah, I never paid much attention to the real time bit, but yeah. I guess I've got more notes, I wrote down while I was playing and just reflections and things like that, but I'm curious, Matt, this was always a game I thought you would really like, and after it came to Switch, you got a copy of it, but then didn't touch it. So me putting it on this list for us to play this year was partially knowing that you would like it, and you have it, and you hadn't played it. So back in November when we were putting together our list, I was like, well, Pikmin 3 is a great game. This is an excuse for everybody to revisit it and play it and whatever. So I guess, what was your expectation of this? Because this is your first Pikmin. And what did you think of it overall?
Yeah, so I mean, I played the demo of this when it first came out on Switch, the deluxe version, and I had that save, and I think it came out in the summer or late summer, early fall, somewhere around there. And I get it for Christmas, and it's one of those games that's going to sit forever on the backlog. And I think when you put it on this list, I think I remember saying, thank you, I can finally play this now, kind of like. But like, I remember when this came back out in GameCube, and like, still, I think I was getting like EGMs at that point. I remember seeing it, and like, I know then, I think I was starting to discover that I did not like RTSs. Like, there's way too much going on. Like, I can play against AI, but like, against other people online, like, that is a mess. And I just don't I like having that ability to kind of pause at times, especially in strategy games, to pause and like kind of think about my next move. That's why I like turn-based so much. That's why I like Final Fantasy X. That's why I like grid-based strategy games, where you have turns almost, right? So, no, I always thought this was like overwhelming. It was a unique idea. It was like colorful. It wasn't like this gritty war, civil war, Total War Rome, like, all those RTSs, always those, like, Age of Empires I always think about, right? They're always like gray and green and brown, and like but this was so colorful, but also, like, again, like, I kind of was starting to learn I did not like RTSs, so it just seemed overwhelming. I was like, how do you control these Pikmin? Especially on a controller. So I always like stayed away from it. I was curious, but never like played it. I was just thought it was overwhelming. But again, I should have thought better of that knowing it was Nintendo. But then when I finally played the demo, like that's what I think Pikmin 3 does a really good job of. Is yes, it's the third one, but for me, it's new. The introduction to this is great. I think I like grasped everything. It wasn't like a slow tutorial either. I was kind of maybe for you both who have played previous Pikmin was, but for me it wasn't slow. It was just like not slowly, but kind of quickly come to grasp with the mechanics and had to wrap my head around this game. And then even when they introduced the second character and had to switch back and forth, it wasn't that bad. And honestly, well, I mean, I played on normal, so maybe that's where the difficulty comes in. But like, I didn't really have to switch between my parties so much. There was like one water level where I kind of did have to kind of go in depth of like having like teams of 3. Or the 3 different teams doing whatever, but for the most part, it was kind of like I would occasionally send dude back to recruit all the Pikmin that kind of stayed back home, bring them back, and then kind of go from there again. But yeah, for it being like an RTS and it having all these different mechanics, like it really is. I think you said it best. What would you say? It was like stressfully relaxing or something like that. I mean, I would like play it in bed, like, kind of getting ready to wind down, go to sleep, like, handheld, and I was enjoying it. And like, I wasn't like stressed out and all like, anxious, then going to bed or whatever. Like, the end of the day comes, and like you said, you would like, I guess the early days are kind of stressful because you have like the 3 juices, but like once you get to like 22 juices or something stupid like that, it's like, all right, if I had a bad day, I can have 20 of these in a row and it's going to be okay. Right. I think there was like one day, and I went into a boss room so late in the day, and I didn't realize the mechanics of the game would kind of like just like take you out and to like be able to put you back in. I didn't know how that worked, so I ended up replaying that day. But then later on I realized I could have just did whatever. So I went back and replayed one day, but no, like it's a fun little game. It's like I said, easy to get into, complex. I'm like I know they tell you the strategy and like how to take on the different bugs in the environment and stuff, but like honestly in this normal difficulty in the deluxe edition, I was just throwing Pikmin and it was like fine for the most part, besides some bigger enemies and bosses. I kind of had to be more careful, but yeah, no, I enjoyed it. And I would say, you were talking about all the Wii U stuff. I kind of wish I played this on Wii U for that gamepad, because I was like in and out of that map a lot more than I wanted to be, I feel like. And knowing that map would have been on the gamepad, I think would have been perfect for me to kind of see where I was going. Because sometimes I would just get lost on where it was, because it's so Metroidvania. I'm kind of get lost and like, all right, I finally discovered blue Pikmin. All right, so where am I going next? Oh, well, okay. The objective arrow is going northeast, and there seems to be a water gap over there. So let's go there. And I just, then trying to navigate back around to that area. Sometimes not messy, but like, I just don't know my way around the map. It's a new land. It's a foreign world to me, just like it is for these characters. So trying to traverse and learn the world and all that stuff. But yeah, I was in and out of that map a lot, where I think the gamepad would actually been beneficial here.
Yeah, and my memory of the Wii U, and it's been 8 years since I played it, but my memory is that I was doing a lot more splitting up of the captains and the Pikmin groups and everything. And I believe, too, I never figured it out in this one. I probably should have looked it up, or I don't know, but I believe in the Wii U one there was a way to easily separate out a Pikmin color and just send them with a captain. Were you able to do that in this one? Like, just like, say, okay, Charlie, go that way and take all the red Pikmin with you. I feel like there was a thing in the Wii U where I could just like tap the red Pikmin and go.
There may have been. I feel like I accidentally skipped like 2 like little those bubbles that would come up, be like, "Hey, this is FYI," kind of like one of those little quick hint things. And I may have accidentally skipped one of those because I felt like creating my teams took a quarter of the day. Like almost at times.
Trying to break them up. So I felt like I was not doing that in this one as much as I did in the Wii U. And because of the map, I felt like it was so much faster for me to just move the whole party. Even the final fight, like when you have to escape the big gold blob and then all that stuff. Like as I was doing that, it was faster for me to just run with Brittany for the most part as she led. Oh yeah, I quickly learned that, carrying Olimar. But I remember playing it the first time, I like split everybody up. And I eventually kind of did in this, but it just, totally different. Yeah, there's a dismiss button on the Wii U version. Maybe it's dismiss. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
That was the other thing. Like, I was always concerned about. I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm losing a lot of Pikmin, and especially like in the early days, I didn't know what I was doing. Then I would look, and I have like 300 red Pikmin, and I would like stop going and getting the flowers because at first I thought I was like, oh, these are a limited thing, these aren't coming back. But then you launch to the map the next day, they're all right there again. I was like, all right, well, I know I'm never gonna run out of Pikmin. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, Again, that was another part with this difficulty that I did not expect to be so simple. But I remember that final day when that gold blob like does some damage to your team. Like, I remember having to stop and go back to an earlier day to go grow more Pikmin because he just murdered so many of them. You know, I let my guard down and he absorbed, just like swallowed so many. And it was like, oh God. But I had made such good progress on something that it was just like a balancing act of trying to go backwards. I think also the boss right before him has that big tongue that comes around, and that, if you're not careful, you can lose a good bit of Pikmin. I guess losing Pikmin leads me to this question. How many Pikmin did you let die in order to find your keys?
Sorry, how many Pikmin did you let die like altogether? Was that what you said?
Yeah, in order to find your car keys, because that was the whole purpose of this game, is to get the Cosmic Drive key.
The car keys. I want to say it was like I might be way off. I think it was in the couple hundreds.
Yeah, I saw yesterday mine was 400, which I did not expect.
Okay, all right, then yeah, definitely I was definitely in the couple hundreds then.
I was 22 away from getting the badge for growing 1,000 of them. I had like 500 plus on hand at the end of the game, and I had lost like 460 something or whatever.
I didn't do that bad against the sand guy was my biggest. I just felt like I wasn't doing enough damage to him. The guy that would like make the holes in the sand and like swallow up your Pikmin. That was the guy I struggled with, and I thought I would have to redo the day or whatever. Honestly, the golden blob boy, I thought I was one of the most fun boss fight because I think the challenge finally kicked in a little bit for me. But no, like I was just like super conservative. But the only thing was like I didn't know how to navigate that cavern, and I didn't really know what I was doing for like, the first half of the day, so I ran out of days, and that's when I learned like you just kind of like restart the segment almost. Like you don't lose any Pikmin or anything as long as they're with you, but yeah, no, I think I did okay in that stage, and I think that's why my number is not much higher.
Mark, did you murder a bunch, or? I feel like you would also. You've got the personality type to replay a day to make sure you don't lose any Pikmin.
Yeah, like, starting out, I was very, like, everything has to be done as a group. I don't want to separate anything. I don't want to lose anything. I want to make it back in time, because it might be a cheerful song that plays when you leave, but if you have some Pikmin straggling behind, they will not hide. Them being just running for their lives, being eaten alive, nature at its purest.
Yeah.
I felt so bad the one night. I thought the unplucked Pikmin would be fine. They were not. They gone.
So like that's like it's a weird. It's like it's jarring, but kind of not at the same time. It's just not expected of Nintendo, I guess, given their like the presence that they give off to everyone. That they're like, oh, we're this family friendly company. You know, we really try to be safe about violence and more adult themes and stuff, but I guess fictional nature is kind of different. Like
dude, look at Splatoon. Get in that lore.
Yeah. True. But like ever since the first game, it was something so creepy about when you send your Pikmin to attack a predator. and they kill it, and it just instantly just stops moving right there, and then you have all your Pikmin carry that corpse back to the ship to sprout more Pikmin. Just seeing that corpse just being carried, and you're just like, what the like? I guess
that's
it's
called giving
killed.
the food chain the middle finger. That's what that is,
right? But like even like we're fighting bosses and stuff too. Like it's just there's something unnerving about it, but I appreciate them not straying away from that. I think it's the one Nintendo game where death isn't just death, but I don't know. They show more to that cycle in a weird way, and
that's a really, really good point I hadn't thought of. Like every other game, death is a mechanic rather than an inevitability, right? Or like, you know what I mean? Like every Nintendo game, it's like there's lives, or at worst there's a game over. But if there's a game over, you just restart. Where Pikmin, it's like, not that you can't replay a day or whatever, but like it's a permanent, it's a fixture, it's a part of the game. Like it's as much as it is a part of life, it's a part of the actual game. It not really thought about it in that way before. That's a good point. It's
not really as video gamey in Pikmin, as you know, as you were saying, pretend to lives and starting over. It's more like recycling, and
even like, you know, the aforementioned Splatoon, where you have this kind of dark lore, etc. Like that, you get splatted, you blow up, and then you come right back. You just respawn. Like every major Nintendo game, it is that. It's not.
Like had these been real, you know, creatures that we see day to day, and seeing that happen, I think it might be a little different. But because it's all made up. But I don't know, there's still something about it. It's still a little weird, but I appreciate them doing it. It's game balances a lot of things. But yeah, I was just so nervous about everything the entire time. It just with the time and just wanting to go everywhere all together. I was always afraid of splitting things up, but of course, do it when you have to. And it was just a bit of a learning curve to trust the game. That was the thing, because like Matt pointed out, like with the flowers or whatever, like I didn't expect the flowers to respawn. So it's like whatever you have is what you have. Like they make this game seem like it's so about survival and everything is so finite, but then not everything is as finite as you think it is. So it kind of tricks you in a weird way if you're used to.
Yeah, that's a really good. Games. Yeah, like. Again, the juicing and all of that stuff, like you constantly feel up against it. Like you need to make sure you're collecting everything and saving your time and whatever, but you don't have to be that strict about it, which, again, I think that ties into that relaxing part of the stress.
Yeah, like I think the biggest thing here to make it like relaxing is like one mistake doesn't dictate the rest of your gameplay. Like you think of a game, we bring this up all the time, but like think of a game like Frostpunk, right? Where you make a wrong decision that goes against how you've been kind of playing the game, and your run's over. I mean, I guess you can keep playing, but in the back of your mind, you kind of like start to realize I made a mistake and it's going to end.
It's just a countdown timer at this point.
Yeah, and this is like you have so many exit strategies out of a decision you made. Like, all right, you got into a boss fight, you weren't prepared for it, and 100 of your Pikmin died. Not the end of the world, because you probably have a bank of 350 if you've been playing this somewhat appropriately. Like, yeah, it sucks to see 100 little colored ghoul ghost things come out of your Pikmin, but you know, at the end of the day, your game's still going to continue because you probably have 15 juice in the bank. Besides that asshole stealing it for those couple days, that was stressful. And you got 250 more Pikmin in the bank. Yeah, you might only have like 15 flying Pikmin now, but like you can easily just switch those 15, go to the flower, you know, go to them, start amassing, more Pikmin again. And of course, you have 14 juice left. You take a whole day to do that. And kind of, again, you have your exit strategy out of a mistake if it gets that dire or bad, but I don't even think it will ever really get that dire.
Yeah, part of me wants to replay this on hard, but also I don't know if I want to.
Me too. Now that I know I'm
very stressed.
Now that I know I was gypped out of the real experience.
Well, there's hard, and then there's what, spicy or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you did the demo, you unlock spicy by default. But I think if you didn't and you just complete the game on hard, you unlock spicy. So yeah, maybe I'll try spicy. I don't know. That seems like insane.
I kind of wish this had online co-op.
Yeah. So that's one thing. I did a little bit of digging into the Pikmin history for this episode that I found some interesting things. I think one of the most fascinating things I've learned in the lead up to this, I'm sure you're all familiar with the origin of Pikmin, or so it was told, where Miyamoto had been gardening and started to imagine all of these little things within his garden, and that led to the idea behind Pikmin. Does that ring a bell? Are you remembering that whole...
I know a lot of things are inspired by him going outside, but that one, I want to say I remember reading that, but I don't know where.
I feel like you brought it up once, maybe. Because it's not totally foreign.
I always remember that being... Yeah, no, I remember it being the anecdote. I learned this week that was a lie. That was something that they kind of like said, like marketing came up with it, and then Miyamoto would just kind of use it as a story in the press and things like that. It's just a cute whatever. Because it does kind of fit, right? But it was not necessarily accurate. There was like a bit where for the first Pikmin, to gather background images, the team working on the game went to Miyamoto's house and took pictures of like the forests nearby and things like that as inspiration or whatever. But the actual garden piece was not necessarily true. Actually, I think everyone is familiar with, and if listeners aren't, the Mario 128 demo, where to show off the power of the Nintendo Dolphin, they showed 128 little Marios running around and moving things, which that would later become the like inspiration for having 100 Pikmin on screen. That demo kind of inspired the game idea to kind of... So originally Pikmin was Adam and Eve, so to speak, where you had two characters just living on a world, and you got to act as a godlike creature who would just do things to interact with them and see what happened. And if you let things play out long enough, they would perhaps mate and reproduce, and you could see how things would grow in this little environment, things like that. It was not necessarily anything to do with this, but it just slowly changed over time, which I had never realized that was the idea behind Pikmin. I always thought it was, again, the Miyamoto story of him palling around in the garden. And I guess that was part... what were you saying right before this? Because I switched topics to this, but I know this was relevant. I can't remember what we were talking about now.
Rewind the tape. No,
I know.
Wasn't he talking about just like... We were talking about like the life and the Pikmin and the... And a new transition. I can't... That's the thing that started it. I'm sorry. I can't
No. It's
recall either.
But, the origin of the game where it was kind of more... Oh, I think that was it. Yeah, right? Like the idea that it was just like more of a... You just kind of see how these things are in their own natural habitat. Like that... Knowing what I know now about that kind of like, Adam and Eve structure and just kind of like observing things, because it was meant to be more like an aquarium, so to speak, right? Like a Seaman experience rather than something like Pikmin.
I remember now. We were talking about the multiplayer, and then you transitioned to the origin story.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. Yes. That was another thing. In the original development, once it kind of became Pikmin, there was the idea to introduce multiplayer, specifically online, and they just kind of realized that using the LAN adapter for GameCube doing it. Also, GameCube didn't. It launched with the port, but you couldn't necessarily connect online with those first games, right? Took a little bit. Oh, you know what? I'm getting my wires crossed with next week's game with the LAN port. Never mind. That was something else. But co-op, the idea to design a campaign around co-op was something they had talked about with Pikmin 1. And it would have changed how what they were doing with the campaign and where you were progressing. I think in Pikmin 2, they explored it a little bit differently. Pikmin 3, it's funny, the original Wii U release, you could not play through the campaign co-op. There were co-op missions you could do, and they added some of those via DLC. But now the deluxe version, you can play, I believe, the entire thing through local co-op, yes?
I believe it from the start, it gave me a co-op option, so yes.
And then to bring it back full circle, Mark is 100% right. I wish we could have done this online. If the three of us could have each taken control of one of the captains and run through, boy, would that have been fun. Just to see what we could get done in a day, and I think that would have been a neat approach to gameplay.
Assigned roles.
I hope, yeah, right? Like, I'll be the fruit guy, right? Like, or split them up. Like, hey, someone needs to be the water path person. Someone needs to go blow up all the walls. Those types of things. I think you could really design a neat game and puzzle with that in mind.
Definitely.
Another thing I know, lately we talked mostly about the Switch version. We played the Switch version, but the Wii U version, I know that it was Nintendo's first foray into the HD era with the Wii U, but I truly felt like playing that game, it was the first taste of what the HD era could be for video games. I know that sounds weird because this is 2013 and not, 2005 when we actually got high definition consoles. But for as realistic as games tried to start looking with the 360 era, they never quite hit it, right? And they still have, there's elements that certainly are more now. I don't want to be a total,
I don't know. I can look outside and everything's not brown. So did they?
But that's exactly my point, right? Like everything kind of had this like look to it back then that just kind of felt a certain way. It was not necessarily realism, but it was like an attempt at that. But Pikmin 3 was, I think, a really cool exercise in capturing life in a different way. Not just the fruit textures, because that is obviously a huge part of this, but I think just like the environments themselves felt real in a different way. The way the water flowed felt real in a different way. And like this whole kind of microcosm that PNF 404 has, it all feels real and alive in a way that I don't think other games quite do. It felt like a place you could be, or it felt like a place that really is right beneath your feet. And I think that's true back to the original Pikmin, but I think more so in the HD era. And I think it just, I don't know. It felt like I was excited then seeing what Nintendo would do with high definition graphics. And I don't think we've had anything quite like it since in terms of Nintendo and HD.
And that's a perfect example of why, like, not every game has to be open world for it to feel like you're in an open world. Like, you can have a closed off area and then put all that time into details and enriching that one, focus more on that one area, that little area, more than just trying to have a big, vast nothingness. And you can still make it feel like something, unless you know.
Some games released recently try to do that, and you still were vast openness, so.
Yeah. Unless you use like that camera mode, and then you start seeing the skybox, and you're like, okay. But
yeah.
Yeah, but is that wrong? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't. Again,
in Pikmin, you're not meant to look up. You're
right. We're going on a tangent here. That's like, I don't need this map. This is GTA 5's map inside of Elden Ring's map.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Although Elden Ring's fucking amazing, let me tell you what.
One more thing about the Switch version specifically, I'm happy to see that the Wii U menus still live on. Looking at some of that stuff pop up, like it's straight up just the Wii U, and the Wii U was just an HD version of the Wii's menu. Yeah, exactly. So it's cool little legacy part in there. We'd be remiss if we didn't mention the fruit at the end of the day. You collect the fruit in the world, you bring it back. They are, fruits that are recognizable, but all with very fun names when they're analyzed. Did anyone have a favorite fruit name or favorite fruit to look at when being scanned?
Oh, I don't remember the names now. Crap.
They were all so weird.
I know. I think the grape one took me by surprise.
Grape was like something pustules or something like that.
I remember that one being weird. I think the lime one too. Because I think it implied you can just straight up drink limes, and that's not how that works at all.
I mean, speak for yourself. There's that. I remember the avocado had a weird one.
Yeah. I can't now. Crap, I kind of want to find them now. Hold on. Let's see if I can pull them up.
Yeah, I just had to look up a list. I like, I think it's a cherry. Yeah, it's Cupid's Grenade.
Cupid's Grenade is pretty good.
Was it for the... I guess it's a mangosteen, which is the actual name of the fruit. Called it a dapper blob.
Pretty good.
The lemon is like the face wrinkler.
Yeah, that's good.
Apple is insect condo.
Oh, that's what it was. The kiwi, the disguised delicacy.
I like the peach mock bottom. That might be my favorite.
What was avocado? Because I can't remember.
Scaly custard.
Scaly custard. Yeah, okay, there it is.
Oh, the dragon fruit was a good one. The fire-breathing feast. I was like, I get it. A dragon.
I felt that too, like the fruit, that was the first like taste of HD. I remember that feeling specifically, like more than just the world, but like the scanned or those textures they built that you could rotate around in that menu, like that was the first time I felt like, oh, this is high definition video gaming. I think the other neat thing at the end of the day, right, you get the fruit, you analyze it, you stare at it forever, it juices and whatever. I loved that. I loved the juicing aspect. I loved seeing what colors would come out of the fruit and the combination of different colors, what color juice that would make. And it sounds like such a weird thing to be excited about, but it made finishing a day in Pikmin that much more worth it. More than all of that, I loved the music that would play at the end of a day. It's just so serene, and it just, I don't know, it kind of just elongates those feelings of calmness and like, I don't know, you get to like relax a bit and just like revel in what you've achieved for the day. I loved that whole little bit.
Makes me think of the Wii.
Of the what?
Makes me think of the Wii.
Yeah, dude. Like, just the Wii had such a calming presence about it that we just don't have anymore. Everything now is just boring or way too intense.
Sorry, there was one more fruit. The insect condo for the apple. It's so. Yeah. I remember seeing that, and I was like, "That is so true, so true."
I took this note down, and now, in hindsight, I feel like maybe I was wrong. But I wrote down, by the time you unlock all of the Pikmin, it might be too many Pikmin. I feel like I can start to split up the groups, but I never quite hit the optimization I hope for. I don't know. Maybe not. But I maybe that's more of the Switch's problem than the Wii U's problem. But do you feel like there were too many Pikmin to manage, or too many Pikmin types?
No, I just... Again, I think I never tried, or I never, I guess, fully took advantage of the 3 squad split, right, until it was necessary. So I think there, and I like the one time I did it, I really just needed like one dude in water with all the blue Pikmin. So like again, I think like you can go for this 3 team, and maybe that's where the optimization is. But I think if you play straightforward and kind of take your time, like I think the game kind of lulls you into thinking like one objective a day when you don't have to do that. Like, it is okay for you to take a few days for a major objective, just because of the amount of juice you have remaining at the end of the game. So I don't know. I don't think it's that terrible if you kind of just stick to one major team and split when necessary. I can see, though, where, like, yeah, it gets weird. What do you have? 5 flying, 5 yellow, 4 blue? Like, I get that part, but I think the game kind of tricked you into thinking got to work fast a little bit, and then when it finally opened up to his regular gameplay loop, you were expecting to do it fast, and you don't need to. You can kind of hit the brake pedal a little bit, and I think that's where I'm not mad about the number of Pikmin or team optimization, because I just kind of stuck together as a team until necessary.
Tricks for sure.
But this game is a bag of tricks, though. We talked about earlier, like how like you feel like there's a level of survival and pressure, but there's so many exit strategies out of a bad day or a mistake or something like that. So I think it's just, this game is just like almost like a magician in a way. Like, they present one thing and then poof, it's gone.
Yeah.
Or an Impractical Joker.
Oh, I know 4 of them.
Speaking of 4, I wrote down a note here to sound the alarm whenever somebody mentions Pikmin 4, and I congratulate us all for making it 52 minutes, or I guess less than that, yeah, when we cut the beginning out. But yeah, I mean, we've made it almost to the end of the episode without talking about Pikmin 4, but I am curious, what's next for Pikmin for all of you? I'll let you think about it for a second. I'll say that I thought Pikmin 3 was a weird surprise, knowing that you establish a franchise and a character, right? The Pikmin are the character, but also Olimar was the character. You add Louie in the second one, and then you basically, until more than halfway through this game, you abandon the 2 characters that had been established at this point and introduce 3 brand new ones. So, thinking about that and thinking about what Pikmin 3 is, and I think that Pikmin 3 still, like, wholly captures what Pikmin is, and I think takes it to a great next step. What do you want next in Pikmin?
I think expanding what you said, the multiplayer, and taking it online, and then having not massive maps, but like these bigger, like this co-op campaign where there's bigger maps and you can split, and maybe up in the Pikmin count if you can. I don't know if the console will handle it, but up in it there and splitting the teams and doing co-op, especially timed things too. I think with this game having to have a single player element, I guess this would be a whole co-op campaign separately, but because it's a single player game, like, you have to kind of do things like in turns almost. Like, of course the days continually go, but you have to like do one thing, go around, do the next thing. It was almost like a step-by-step thing. I kind of want the multiplayer to take advantage of more time aspects, like not like all right, hit go and 3, 2, 1, go, but like all right, I come in with my yellow army, you come in with your blue army, and some kind of weird like water thing, and then like you go into the water, or you come out of the water as I put my yellow Pikmin into the circuit, and then you like after I shock enemy or whatever, I disband the circuit, you go back into the water to attack until enemy wakes back up. Like, doing weird things like that, I think, is where
that could be a really cool boss fight where you force bosses out, in and out of different areas depending on the Pikmin type. That's a really neat. Mark, what about you? Pikmin 4 or whatever the next Pikmin is?
I'm thinking narrative wise, shaking things up. I think it should make you question about your decisions a little more. Especially how the way Pikmin are taken advantage of, and actually coming to terms with that. Like, maybe there's a parasite going around and it's killing your supply of Pikmin. Maybe you have to start crossbreeding Pikmin. Maybe you have to start like finding new ways to keep them surviving, because you just use so much of them without thinking about it that maybe there is a limit to them, and it's starting. Maybe they're starting to go extinct or something. I don't know, but
the morality of war. You almost brought up the whole second act of Metal Gear Solid 5 there. So congratulations.
like maybe Pikmin can't live on their planet anymore. Maybe you gotta live somewhere else, and then you have to populate it.
Yeah, I mean, they do. Pikmin 3 ends with a message regarding, like, they're taking the fruit juice back, and, you know, if they do things right and they salvage the seeds correctly, they could save their, you know, planet. But if they do it wrong, they'll be bad. It's very much like a message about humanity, because this is clearly Earth, right? Especially if you play Pikmin 1, where there's straight up, like, Duracell batteries and things like that in the world. But, like, there's, you know, human artifacts here. There's things like that are within Pikmin. This is set way in the future. And if you look at the actual, like, formation of the landmass in Pikmin 3, that's another little fun fact. It looks like, I forget the name, Proto-Pangea, I think is what it is. But it's like what scientists project the Earth will look like in 25,000 years or something, where, like, as things shift and, you know, we go the opposite way, where now all the continents are broken apart, they'll come back together, but that's kind of how this was all laid out. So clearly this is meant to be kind of that. I think that you could go play more into that morality and more of the, like, you know, mistakes of humanity kind of thing. I think there's a lot of
crossbreeding idea a lot, really.
Yeah.
I do too.
I think that would be like that'd be the main mechanic, is making your own. I mean, like,
I think there's
flowers,
something,
right? Like, cross-pollinate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something there too, where you limit the Pikmin count. Like, instead of 100, like, you do 50 some days or something like that, and you have to crossbreed to kind of. Yeah. I like, because
that gives you different ways to solve a problem, right? Like, you might want to have fire flying Pikmin, but maybe a different day you want to have fire electric or whatever, you know.
Or maybe that's the answer to the, like, the multiplayer, right? So maybe you can't have 300 Pikmin on the screen at one time, but if you have 3 teams of 50 each, it's 150. I think the Switch is more than capable, because I never saw my Switch hiccup once playing this game. So,
no.
Yeah, I think there's something there with the crossbreeding too. I like that a lot.
My 2 big remaining questions before we rank Pikmin 3. What, I guess Pikmin 4, does it come out on Switch, or do we have to wait until the next console? Because Pikmin, I guess it was 2018 or a little bit, I forget when, but Miyamoto confirmed that work is happening on the next Pikmin, which is presumably Pikmin 4, and then we haven't heard anything. So do you think that it comes out here, or do you think we wait until Switch 2 or Switch U or whatever?
I want to say the next console. I don't know. I just nothing else to it. It was just that.
Yeah, I think it'll be out before Metroid Prime 4. That one I'm kind of confident about. I just don't know if that's Switch 2 or Switch 3.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think about all of the Pikmin games, like, well, Pikmin 3 is one where it was originally designed or announced to be, again, it was another Miyamoto thing in, like, 2008, where he was like, we're working on Pikmin 3. And the idea is that it would be out on Wii, and that was what inspired those re-releases of Pikmin 1 and 2 for Wii, where you could use the Wii remote. But obviously, Pikmin 3 got pushed to Wii U. I feel like we're probably ending up with a similar thing with Pikmin 4 in this regard. And my last question about this, what is the best platform for Pikmin?
Best platform?
I know it's been on a few, but we've had a DS one, which was side-scrolling, but I don't necessarily know, if they could have done Pikmin on a DS. Yeah, does this work? I mean, was Wii U the actual definitive platform? Should this be a PC game?
I mean, I feel like in a game like this, like any real-time strategy game, like, you always have that map in the bottom quadrant, right? Like, I feel like having that map is such a big deal, but like in having to interact again in like Age of Empires, it's good for reference, but I feel like in this game you interact with that map so much more. So the second screen helps a lot, really. And I was like clamoring for it, knowing that it existed, almost. I don't think I would have cared if it wasn't on Wii U, and that I think I just would have gotten over. But knowing that was a thing, I was like, ugh. Yeah. It's kind of like Mario Maker 2, almost the same idea. Like you had Mario Maker 1, it was so clean and easy to sketch or whatever on the pad, and then just send the TV to play. And then here, like you had to sketch, dot. Like the experience gets a little ruffled almost, knowing what it could be.
It's funny because I didn't use the map that much. I used more just photographic memory of the land after going through it so much. I'm just like, oh, okay, this is this thing, this is that thing. I didn't rely on it as heavily, but I totally understand that argument though, of just like having that second screen and just having that always to look at. I do think that is a very convenient thing to have. So yeah, I don't know. It's like for that type of convenience, I could see how Wii U might be the top one, but I think control-wise and just making this more of like a starting point for new players to come in, I think the one for Switch is the best one.
I mean, I did like the fact that, like, on Switch, like, again, I played probably more of this in bed or on a couch than I did on the console. And I know you can do that on the Wii U, but again, you kind of have to be in console range. That's the one limitation of that. Again, it's like the prototype to Switch. But because of that, I kind of like the grab and go factor of this game, especially because you can. I did it over your house when we played, watching the Xbox thing. Like I just plopped down, played a day while we were waiting for pizza. So I don't know. I'm like half and half, honestly. As much as I don't like the Wii U, it makes sense for something like this.
Yeah, I think it all just depends what your preferred control style is too, like your play style. Because I could even see like the Wii being the preferred choice, or just like using the Wiimote or whatever.
Yeah, because I played Pikmin. I first played Pikmin 1 on the GameCube, but I'd gone back to it on Wii, and it was neat being able to point with the pointer, and that was one thing I didn't try this time around with the Switch version that I want to, because you don't have necessarily the pointing, but you do have the gyro that lets you simulate that, and while we get ready to rank it, I guess let's rank it, and we can close out with that. So I really like Pikmin 3. Like I think it's, barring Super Mario Maker, the best game on Wii U, and it's definitely one of the best first party releases on Switch. And ultimately, even outside of just those two confines, I think Pikmin 3 is one of the best games ever made. To that end, we've got a tough list, some tough competition. But I think for me, this is in the top 5 on our list. I'll let you guys think for a second. I'll remind the listeners that our current top 5 from top down are Wii Sports, Portal 2, Res Infinite, Downwell, and Tokyo Jungle.
I was made aware of that fact, and I think that fact that Mark brought up earlier is going to change my opinion on this game just a little bit. I thought it was too easy. I thought it was way too easy. However, know what I know now. And I guess you could always just go back and replay it. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, I was definitely missing that. That's why I like that last level so much. It was the first time I kind of felt challenged, and like I had to harness my skills a little bit. And
see, I was so worried about remembering what I remembered about that level. I was so worried about you in particular playing that last level where you'd be screaming at the TV, because I remember being so frustrated with that. And that was when I still smoked cigarettes, And I remember, again, snowstorm, whatever. I remember finishing it and just walking outside barefoot and just smoking a cigarette, and staring into the night, just like so agitated.
No, I mean it pushes your skills, and that's where the mass chaos, chaos ensues. But again, it wasn't that bad. But the whole ride there wasn't that hard. And I think in the back of my head, I knew like I had other days where I could replay the day or whatever. Yeah, I could see this being in top 5. I'm not gonna argue against that.
See, it's hard trying to look at this objectively. Because it's like there's a lot of things about it that I'm just not personally a fan of, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Like I can still see that it's a good, like, well-made game. There's just a lot of things about it that I just don't care about coming back to. But I think because of that, it's third place for me.
Oh, you're right there. Okay.
Just between the time stuff and like some backtracking, I don't know how much of that I want to do forever versus Portal. You don't really do that, or if you do, at least you just bloop, you have a portal. That's the way I'm looking at it at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at the moment. It can change, but that's what I'm currently thinking about.
No, I was actually lower. I was having a tough time figuring out if this is above Tokyo Jungle or above Downwell, and for me, it was kind of like right below Downwell, but above Tokyo Jungle.
I think it handles time better than Tokyo Jungle.
Yeah, I agree. Time catches you so quickly in Tokyo Jungle, and it's such a permanent consequence, where this is, again, like you can redo it. It doesn't, you're good.
And then you're hold on. All right, let me bitch about Tokyo Jungle again. You have to wait a fucking minute until you can do anything.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Or you should do anything. You can do things, but you
it
shouldn't
doesn't count
do them
though, because they don't carry progress over to your objective. Fucking stupid.
Yeah,
God.
That's the problem there.
It's the dumbest thing.
But yeah, I mean, does this edge up above Downwell for either of you?
I mean, me personally, because again, I did not have the same experience you all have with Downwell. I think, again, platform had a lot to do with that, I still think.
Yeah,
Res, though, SB, oof.
I mean, I appreciate Downwell's simplicity, but I just feel Downwell feels like a snack compared to Pikmin. That's like a course meal.
I mean, yeah, sure.
I mean, they're both good. They're both really good, but I think I'm going to lean towards Pikmin for that one.
The side stories were not core Pikmin 3, right? The Alamar and Louis side stories were not.
They weren't. Yeah, they were not in.
So I have to kind of ignore that, because I think I'll throw this out there. I think Pikmin 3 Deluxe Edition did a really cool thing where it was like right as you met Alamar, it like kind of let you shift to a side story to kind of explain like how we got there, kind of like, and let you go through a whole thing. And then there's like a second side story, I think, with Alamar. Spoilers, I guess, for Pikmin 3. With Alamar kind of staying behind or going back after the fact. I didn't play that yet, but yeah, those side stories were kind of cool, but I have to take them away. Yeah, again, it's above Downwell for me. I don't know, we're fighting Res yet.
I mean, I'm the fool that if it goes above Res, I feel like it goes above Portal 2 for me.
I don't have it going above Portal 2 though. That's I can hear an argument for Res for me personally, but I don't. Yeah, I like I mean, again, me personally, I just like Portal 2. I think I'm in the same regards. I think it's one of the best single player video games ever made.
Does it go above Res?
I don't know.
I have no problem putting it above Res.
I think the challenge part is what throws me off here. If I were to play this on hard, if I were to play Pikmin on hard, I feel like I would easily have this above Res, because Res gave me that challenge almost right away, and it had that kind of that addiction of like, oh, let me get a higher score. Oh, let me go back and 100% get all the things, and let me try to, clear more things in the same 5 levels.
Well, then I know you didn't do that, but I can sell you that, because that was the Wii U version for me. Like, I remember playing the Wii U version and constantly feeling that like push and pull of optimization, and do I have the right number of Pikmin? Do I have the right type of Pikmin? Mm-hmm. Did I get enough fruit? Should I spend another half day just collecting fruit, or should I go for this boss? Should I try and push it and carry this boss halfway before the end of the day, so that tomorrow morning I can just bring it the rest of the way while I send another squad? Like, there was a lot of that, even in some of the mid stages, not even before the end game. Like, it definitely has that element to it. And I think even if you got a taste of that in normal mode on Deluxe, you can kind of imagine where it goes in a,
yeah, for us, probably as frustrating as that last day should be, it was the most fun, because I felt pressured a bit. Yeah, my personal score won't reflect it, but we can put it above Res.
I'm good with it. All right, I'm going to pop it there. Our new number 3. Pikmin 3. And I guess while I'm typing this in, my final question is, so, Mark, you have played 1, but not 2?
Correct.
Matt, you've played only 3. Are either of you going to revisit the ones you've not played?
I would definitely I wouldn't mind going back and trying 2, because I think I would enjoy that one the most.
Yeah, I see me at some point. It's not going to be right now, but I see me at some point going back and playing those, especially 1. Maybe I don't get 2, but for sure 1, just to kind of see the roots and actually play as Olimar. Because again, you brought that up earlier. It's weird playing so much Smash Brothers, seeing Olimar, and then you get fucking Charlie or whoever the fuck. It's like, yeah. All right, that's not Olimar. Whatever.
The other weird thing with Pikmin 1, or rather 2, that we don't get here is there's 2 other types of Pikmin that we don't get here. There's the heavies in Pikmin 2 and the poisonous ones. So there's something more to be discovered. Yeah. But a great game and a great franchise, and I'm excited to see what Pikmin 4 eventually is. But until then, Pikmin 3 is dang good and worth your time. We're going to close out and announce next week's game. Matt, would you like to introduce the game that everyone should play this week in the lead up to next week?
It is called Mario Kart: Baby Park.
I think
the GameCube version. The GameCube version.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that next week. We'll be talking all about Baby Park, I guess, for an hour and a half.
Yep.
And that'll be that. Until then, thanks for talking Pikmin 3 with us. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, listener, for listening. See you next week.